Now, fans that either sold their tickets or whatever, all of a sudden an emphasis is starting to get thrown onto the tickets where people believe she will be playing. And that's starting to make the ticket prices.
Picture this. Ticket prices collapsing from $41 to $3. Not $30. $3. For a professional basketball game in a league that's supposed to be on the rise. Now imagine that same game, just days earlier, was selling out arenas at premium prices. What changed? One player didn't show up. One rookie. One 22-year-old woman who apparently holds more power over an entire professional sports league than anyone wants to admit. This is the Caitlin Clark effect, and what she's exposing about the WNBA isn't just surprising. It's earth-shattering, because while everyone's been focused on her logo threes and highlight reels,
percent in many places. The Fever played the Mystics 2 nights ago. The cheapest ticket before her injury was announced was $41, okay? The cheapest one. After her injury was announced and people knew that she wasn't going to be playing, the lowest ticket price dropped to $3. $3. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. The WNBA doesn't quite realize what they have in Caitlin Clark. She is the absolute golden goose, the golden ticket. She is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
She's accidentally pulled back the curtain on a system that's been hiding in plain sight. And trust me, what you're about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about women's basketball. Let's start with the numbers, because they don't lie. Fans who bought season tickets are suddenly flipping them on resale markets, not to make a profit, but to cut their losses. The anticipation for games where Caitlin Clark is expected to play has turned ticket pricing into something resembling a stock market during a gold rush. We're talking about surge-level demand that's so intense.
Especially for Ping Pong, you know? She's like the Stephen Curry of WNBA with the threes and stuff. Like, proven fact is, like, they had a game on June 7th scheduled, you know, it was going to be Ada Reese's team, which plays for Chicago, and then for Caitlin Clark's team. They were supposed to go up there playing Chicago on June 7th. First, the ticket sales were at $76 a ticket. Then after they found out Caitlin Clark's not playing,
joked the Federal Reserve might need to step in. This isn't your typical sports hype. This is something else entirely. She's hitting shots from distances that seem physically impossible, the kind of range that makes you wonder if she's got a targeting system borrowed from the International Space Station. TV ratings are shattering records left and right. Fans are legitimately selling valuable possessions just to afford courtside seats.
She wasn't going to be playing. The lowest ticket price dropped to $3. $3. This is the Caitlin Clark effect. The WNBA doesn't quite realize what they have in Caitlin Clark. She is the absolute golden goose, the golden ticket. She is the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. They must protect her at all costs. You can argue all you want if she's the best player in the league, but you absolutely cannot argue if she's the most important, because she is. She is more valuable than all the other players combined, and that is just...
And here's the wildest part. None of this was triggered by some miraculous game-winning shot or a championship run. The entire league tilted on its axis the moment she stepped back on the floor after recovering from an injury. That's it. She just came back, and the whole landscape changed. Now let's talk about what happens when she's not there, because this is where things get absolutely insane. Ticket sales drop 70% in many locations when Caitlin Clark is absent. 70%. Think about that for a second. A league that's been fighting for visibility and respect for decades suddenly loses 7 out of every 10 potential ticket buyers because one player isn't suited up. The Fever played the Mystics just a couple nights.
Down to $25 after the injury announcement. And it's supposed to take place in the Bulls Arena, the United Center, as opposed to the normal Wintrust Arena. That's about a 12
ago. And before her injury was announced, the cheapest ticket you could grab was $41. Reasonable, right? A fair price for professional basketball. But the moment word got out that Caitlin wasn't playing, that same ticket dropped to $3. 3. You could buy a ticket to a WNBA game for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. This isn't just a price adjustment. This is a complete market collapse. And it proves something the league has been desperately trying to deny. They still don't fully understand what they have in Caitlin Clark. She's not just a good player or even a great one. She's the golden goose. She's the golden ticket. She's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that every struggling franchise dreams about finding. And the WNBA needs to protect her at all costs, not just physically, but by recognizing the value she brings. But here's where it gets deeper. Caitlin Clark isn't just handling basketballs. She's bending egos, reshaping media narratives, and filling bank accounts that have been empty for years. The WNBA is transforming right in front of our eyes, but somehow nobody's talking about it in the way they should. There's a clear divide now, a before and after moment. Before Caitlin Clark, ticket prices were reasonable and predictable. After Caitlin Clark, prices are skyrocketing into what people are calling luxury tax territory, both on the court and off it. Her presence alone is fundamentally altering the league's entire landscape. She's not playing by the old rules. She's writing new ones. And the thing is, the Caitlin Clark effect goes way beyond her dropping 30-point games. There's a change in the atmosphere itself. She's more than a player. She's become the main character in the league's storyline, the protagonist everyone's watching to see what happens next. Even when she's sitting on the bench, the statistics don't change. When she's out, ticket prices plummet, ratings drop, and merchandise sales slow to a crawl. Attending one of her games feels less like watching a basketball matchup and more like hoping for a Taylor Swift surprise appearance at a playoff event. That's the level of cultural phenomenon we're talking about here. This isn't hype that'll fade in a few months. This is a full-blown movement, and anyone who thinks otherwise is fooling themselves. You can argue all day about whether she's the best player in the league, but you absolutely cannot argue about whether she's the most important. Because she is. She's more valuable than all the other players combined, and that's not an opinion. That's just math. But not everyone's happy about it. Some WNBA players seem deeply uncomfortable acknowledging her influence. Instead of celebrating the fact that someone's finally bringing the entire league into the national spotlight, some veterans act like Caitlin showed up and stole their lunch money, snatched their endorsement deals right out from under them. It creates this really bizarre dynamic where the league is struggling to fully embrace the new wave of talent that could save it. When Caitlin got injured with a quad issue and was set to miss 2 weeks, the economics told the whole story. There was a game scheduled in Chicago on June 7th, an Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark showdown that was supposed to be box office gold. Opening ticket price, $86. Then the injury announcement dropped, and suddenly those same tickets were selling for $25. The game was even supposed to take place at the United Center, the Bulls Arena, instead of the usual venue. That's a 12,000-seat capacity difference. They expected a massive crowd. And when Caitlin couldn't play, the bottom fell out. Here's the most peculiar part. Caitlin Clark's effect endures even on her nights off. The arena stays full even when she's not playing. Fans show up just to catch a glimpse of her on the bench, maybe see what she's wearing or how she's interacting with teammates. Who else in the league attracts that kind of attention? Certainly not the players posting passive-aggressive Instagram stories about respecting the veterans. 2.5 million people tuned in to watch Caitlin get triple-teamed at half court. That's the kind of viewership the WNBA has been dreaming about for years. But instead of embracing it, some players don't seem to realize that Clark isn't their rival. She's their elevator. She's lifting everyone up, creating opportunities that didn't exist before. And instead of riding that wave to success, some are actively trying to cut the cables. There's this subtle hostility, these remarks about rookies needing to earn their spot, the side glances and cold body language. The irony is thick enough to cut with a knife. earning it apparently doesn't include being the primary reason your games are getting nationally televised for the first time in over a decade. The veteran jealousy is louder than a buzzer beater at this point. And it's not like Caitlyn's out there demanding special treatment or acting like a diva. She's just playing basketball, unleashing those logo threes with surgical precision. But some players seem way more interested in gatekeeping than in changing the game. The league's continuous failure to properly embrace this new support system is becoming impossible to ignore. Meanwhile, the media circus has reached absolutely absurd levels. Full-fledged analysis follows Clark everywhere she goes. Experts lose their minds over every move. Camera angles track her like she's an endangered species being documented for National Geographic. It's ESPN meets nature documentary. Everyone hunting for footage of Caitlyn in her natural hardwood habitat. Social media has exploded. Casual fans who couldn't tell you what a pick and roll was 6 months ago are now debating zone defenses on TikTok. Metrics are through the roof. You'd think the players would be thrilled about all this attention, right? Wrong. Some are actually sneering, saying things like, she still needs to prove herself. Girl, in 15 minutes, she's proven more than some entire teams have managed in 15 seasons. The star power extends far beyond the game itself. People act like she's about to burst through the tunnel even when she's not playing. Scalpers swarm outside arenas like she's headlining Coachella. Certain programs haven't seen this level of public interest since the Obama administration. Let that sink in. The absence of this one rookie stands out more than if the entire home team's starting lineup decided not to show up. And yet, amid all this success, there's resistance everywhere. Tweets, veiled criticisms, locker room whispers, players acting like Caitlyn manufactured all this attention out of thin air. They dismiss her as just another newbie. But that newbie fills more seats than your last 3 playoff runs combined. There's no getting around it. Unquestionably, there's a tension brewing in the league between adoration and envy, and Caitlyn Clark's rise is making it worse. It's this startling cognitive dissonance. Sure, the WNBA has other famous players. Diana Taurasi is so legendary that if she threw a basketball at a brick wall, the wall would probably apologize. But Clark has something different, something that extends beyond pure basketball talent. She's got cultural momentum. It's the same thing Tiger Woods had. The same thing Serena Williams had. That unique spark, that lightning in a Gatorade bottle that you simply cannot teach, coach, or imitate. And here's the thing, she's not even flawless. Clark gets called for violations. She gets stripped. She turns the ball over. But even her mistakes become trending topics. Twitter erupts when she takes charge. Sports talk radio will debate a single hip check she gave for days. Blogs write entire articles wondering if she's injured because she scratched her nose during a timeout. That's real power. The kind you don't ask for. The kind you earn. She didn't just show up and demand the spotlight. She set an entire movement into motion. If the league were smart, they'd be harnessing that energy, riding the wave all the way to a new golden era. Instead, they're trying to downplay it with dismissive press releases and forcing awkward confrontations. Some players are actively trying to make her feel small, like this is some kind of hazing ritual. But this isn't a sorority. It's a business. And Caitlyn Clark is currently the strongest sales pitch the WNBA has had since its inception. The real drama isn't happening on the court. It's in how she's being treated. Fans outside the core WNBA bubble are starting to notice the glaring disparity. Is this really how we're going to handle the one athlete who's bringing millions of new eyeballs to the sport? Apparently, yes. Especially if you're still bitter about not making the shortlist for that Nike deal. The irony is so obvious it hurts. The league has been handed an alley-oop on a silver platter. They could use this moment of increased visibility to elevate all the talented players, boost jersey sales across the board, secure bigger TV contracts, and usher in a brand new era. Instead, half the league is treating Clark's rise like it's some kind of hostile invasion rather than a revolution that benefits everyone. Every single time she steps on the court, or even just sits on the bench, the league gains more attention. But some players would rather focus on gatekeeping than building their own legacies. The real tragedy here is that this could genuinely be the league's golden period, the moment historians look back on and say, that's when everything changed. But only if egos step aside and let it happen. Despite being a rookie, Caitlin Clark already controls the ball, the media narrative, and an estimated $50 million in market influence swirling around her like a perfectly executed pick and roll. The Caitlin Clark effect is undeniable, whether she's draining logo threes or sipping Gatorade on the sideline. The league can either ride this wave into a prosperous future or risk being left behind as the culture shifts without them. But let's be real. There's way more going on here than just basketball. The cheers during warm-ups are drowning out the noise at tip-off. A cultural shift is happening in real time. Caitlin Clark didn't create the WNBA. She just reminded everyone of what the league could be if people stopped fighting its own success. For those who thought their agent was the only one with this kind of influence, that's a tough pill to swallow. And things get even more bizarre when you look at how the commissioner is handling all this. Kathy Engelbert is out here acting like she personally dragged the league into the spotlight. She's running around giving "How I Saved the WNBA" PowerPoint presentations, treating Caitlin Clark like she's some intern in charge of organizing Gatorade logistics. Let's set the record straight. Engelbert didn't drop 40 points in the Final Four against South Carolina. She didn't turn casual viewers into diehard basketball fanatics. She didn't spark a national retail frenzy or shatter college viewership records. But now, armed with a press release and a vision board, she's acting like she's the mastermind behind this entire revolution. The Caitlin Clark effect isn't some corporate team-building exercise. It's a cultural earthquake. The real transformation is happening on the court, in the arenas, in the living rooms of millions of new fans. And the commissioner just happens to be lucky enough to be holding on for dear life while the ground shakes beneath her feet. This is what exposure looks like. Not the polished, controlled narrative that league offices try to manufacture, but the raw, undeniable truth that one player can change everything. Caitlin Clark has exposed a system that was content to stay small, that was comfortable with mediocrity, that didn't believe it deserved the same spotlight as the men's game. She proved them all wrong. And whether the league is ready to admit it or not, she's already rewritten the future. The question now is whether everyone else will catch up before it's too late.